In the secluded enclave of Nueva Palatina, a story of despair and injustice unfolded within the walls of a remote clinic. Here, a promising medical intern named Mariana Sanchez found herself ensnared in a web of isolation and torment. Her cries for help were swallowed by the bureaucratic void, her official complaints disregarded and mysteriously erased. The world she once knew became a distant memory as Mariana was subjected to unrelenting harassment, a sinister shadow that loomed over her every moment. Mariana's tragic story culminated in a heart-wrenching discovery. Her lifeless body was found hanging in the very room that was supposed to be her sanctuary, a room that now echoed with the silence of unanswered questions. Her swift cremation obliterated any remaining hopes of uncovering the truth, leaving behind a trail of suspicion and despair. A system that should have safeguarded her instead appeared to conspire in silencing her voice forever. The haunting question remains: what truly happened to Mariana Sanchez? Why did the authorities act with such haste in erasing the evidence, effectively stifling any chance of justice for her grieving family? Mariana's story is not just one of personal tragedy, but of systemic failure. A failure to listen, to protect, and to act. On a seemingly ordinary Thursday, Mariana was on the cusp of returning home, yearning for solace after enduring relentless harassment. She confided in her mother, expressing her growing unease and her determination to escape the oppressive confines of the clinic. Her plans to confront the clinic director were her last known actions before she slipped into a chilling silence. Mariana's journey began in the bustling heart of Mexico City on July 16, 1995. Her early life was marked by movement between the vibrant capital and the nurturing embrace of her maternal grandparents in Tuxtla Gutiérrez. By the tender age of 6, she chose to settle permanently in Tuxtla Gutiérrez with her mother Lord, who was her sole guardian after her father's absence post-separation. Despite the limited details of her early years, Mariana was remembered as a bright yet reserved child, a quiet presence with a cheerful disposition. Her academic journey led her initially to dentistry, but her passion soon veered towards the art of healing. Transferring to the University of Atenoma to Chiapas, she pursued her dream of becoming a doctor, excelling in her studies and gaining practical experience in a private clinic. Her aspiration was to specialize in pathology, a testament to her dedication to the medical field. In her personal life, ill gatherings and maintained an active lifestyle. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy, Mariana's world was tinged with a foreboding darkness, one that ultimately consumed her. Her story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the profound need for empathy and vigilance within the systems meant to protect us. Mariana's legacy is a call to action, a call to ensure that no voice is ever silenced, no plea for help ignored, and that justice is pursued with unwavering resolve. Mariana was a woman whose life was a testament to the strength of character and the depth of human compassion. Those who knew her described her with words that painted a picture of kindness, intelligence, and unwavering loyalty. She was the kind of friend who would stand by you through thick and thin, her support as constant as the rising sun. In the face of adversity, Mariana displayed a bravery that was as rare as it was inspiring. Her courage was not just a trait, but a way of life. On social media, she shared glimpses of her vibrant personality through memes and uplifting quotes. Her love for junk food and sweets was a quirky trait that endeared her to many. Yet she used her platform for more than just personal expression. It was a stage for advocacy. She championed causes marrow and organs, a testament to her commitment to saving lives. In her final year of medical school, Mariana faced a pivotal requirement: the completion of her social service at a public clinic in Monterrey. This was more than an academic obligation, it was a profound personal journey. A mere few hours separated her from her mother, Lord, who had recently moved to the area. Their relationship transcended the conventional mother-daughter bond. They were best friends, their connection deepened by the trials they faced together, particularly Lord's battle with cancer. This shared struggle fortified their bond, and Mariana made it a point to visit her mother every weekend, a commitment as unwavering as her love. The social service was a gateway to her medical residency, a necessary rite of passage determined through a public selection process that considered academic performance. For her efforts, Mariana received a modest monthly stipend, ranging between $100 to $150, a small sum for a monumental task. In August 2020, at the tender age of 24, Mariana was assigned to the health center in Nueva Pales, Tena, a remote indigenous community nestled within the municipality of Ocosingo, Chiapas. The assignment was daunting, the location isolated and poorly equipped, a challenge that would test the resolve of even the most seasoned individuals. For Mariana, it quickly became overwhelming. Upon her arrival, she was confronted with living conditions that were nothing short of appalling. Her accommodation was a small, bare room, described as having 4 unpainted gray walls, devoid of even a bed. Mariana had to either bring her own bed or improvise with whatever scant resources she could muster. The room was infested with insects and lacked basic necessities, including a bathroom. With no internet or reliable cell service, she was isolated from the world outside. The restroom facilities were located across an empty lot, shared with others and poorly maintained. Privacy was a luxury she could not afford, as her room lacked a proper door, a mere sheet of black plastic. The clinic itself was a modest structure, erected through the collective efforts of a community with limited resources, hopeful of accessing much-needed medical care. Yet the noble intentions behind the clinic were overshadowed by a harsh reality. The living conditions were grueling, and the area was notorious for its dangers. Reports of violence against healthcare workers in the region cast a pall over the clinic's operations, a stark reminder of the perilous environment in which Mariana worked. In this challenging landscape, Mariana's story unfolds as a testament to the human spirit's resilience. It is a narrative of dedication and sacrifice, of a young woman who faced insurmountable odds with grace and courage. Her journey is a reflection of the profound interconnectedness of human lives and the enduring impact one individual can have on a community. Through Mariana's eyes, we are reminded of the fragility and strength that coexist within us all, and the enduring hope that even in the most challenging circumstances, compassion and courage can light the way forward. In a world that often demands silence from those who suffer, Mariana's story emerges as a haunting testament to resilience amidst adversity. The moment she stepped into the clinic, an unsettling feeling of displacement washed over her, a premonition of the trials that lay ahead. Her mother, a witness to her daughter's turmoil, recounted how Mariana's intuition urged her to flee from the very beginning. The environment surrounding the clinic was marred by tales of theft and lynching, casting a shadow of fear that seemed to seep into every corner of Mariana's existence. Her nights were spent in a room with a broken door, a constant reminder of her vulnerability and the precariousness of her situation. These conditions, far from the safety and support she had hoped for, only deepened her anxiety. Yet the physical insecurities were eclipsed by the insidious nature of the harassment she faced. A co-worker, whose presence became an ominous specter in her daily life, harassed Mariana relentlessly. Confiding in her family, she revealed the torment she was enduring, yet the path to relief was obstructed by the labyrinthine bureaucracy and the indifference of institutional mechanisms meant to protect her. Her mother, seeing the toll it was taking, implored her to abandon the clinic. But Mariana's resolve to complete her social service and forge a path in medicine held her steadfast, though isolated by a lack of communication and resources. Her workload was overwhelming, and the absence of reliable cell service further entrenched her solitude. Despite her efforts to seek reprieve through formal channels, Mariana's appeals were met with apathy. The authorities, both local and academic, failed to grasp the gravity of her plight. Her request for a transfer was dismissed, leaving her ensnared in an increasingly perilous environment. By November, Mariana's fears materialized in a harrowing encounter that would forever alter her sense of security. She reached out to her mother and a trusted friend, recounting a nightmarish ordeal. Her tormentor, inebriated and emboldened, invaded her sanctuary, his intentions unmistakably malicious. Alone, without the comfort of her roommate's presence, Mariana fought with every ounce of strength she possessed. Despite the assault, her cries for help were met with callous disregard. The clinic director, rather than offering protection, trivialized her plight, prioritizing institutional needs over personal safety. Mariana, trapped in a cycle of abuse, continued to endure the nightly torment from her assailant, a neighbor who seemed to revel in her distress. A protective shield for those she loved. Yet, despite the overwhelming fear and isolation, her courage shone through. In a society where silence is often the norm, Mariana's decision to speak out was a radical act of defiance. Her official complaints, lodged with both clinic authorities and the public prosecutor's office, were a desperate plea for justice. Mariana's story, a narrative of bravery amidst despair, calls into question the societal structures that failed her. It beckons us to reflect on the systemic changes necessary to ensure that no voice goes unheard, and that safety and respect are the rights of all, not privileges of the few. In the quiet corridors of an unassuming clinic, shadows of neglect and silence loomed over a tragic narrative. Mariana, a promising young woman, found herself ensnared in a web of harassment and indifference. Despite the evident distress she faced, the response from those entrusted with her safety was dishearteningly inadequate. The clinic managers, in a dismissive gesture, suggested a temporary reprieve at Molly's, urging her to take time off, a superficial balm for a deep wound. Meanwhile, the very institution that should have provided justice, the prosecutor's office, dismissed her complaint. The case lingered in bureaucratic limbo, untouched by the hands of justice. Mariana's plight was not an isolated whisper in the wind. Others bore witness to the audacity of her harasser, who brazenly breached the sanctity of her private space by breaking down her door. The clinic director, in a perfunctory promise, assured Mariana that the perpetrator would be terminated, yet action remained elusive. Frustrated and fearful, Mariana turned to the Nachiopis, the body charged with safeguarding her during this critical juncture of her academic journey. However, her pleas echoed into a void of inaction. The situation spiraled into an abyss of dread. The prospect of returning to the clinic became an ordeal, a nightmare from which she could not awaken. Then, in the bleakness of January 2021, a heartbreaking chapter unfolded. On the 28th of January, Mariana prepared to leave for Tuxtla Gutierrez, her heart heavy with unresolved fear. A conversation with her mother that day revealed a voice strained with anxiety and urgency. Mariana confided in her mother, revealing that the harassment persisted unabated. She intended to confront the clinic director once more in a desperate bid for resolution. Yet the call she promised to make never came. By the morning of January 29th, an ominous silence enveloped her absence. The devastating truth was unveiled by a friend. Mariana had been found lifeless, hanging by a rope in her modest room adjacent to the clinic. The news shattered her family, leaving them adrift in a sea of grief and unanswered questions. Despite her own frail health, Mariana's mother, Lord, embarked on a grueling journey south, driven by the maternal instinct to reclaim her daughter's body. The path was long and arduous, punctuated by multiple transfers and layovers. Upon arrival, bureaucratic delays compounded her anguish, denying her the immediate solace of seeing Mariana one last time. Faced with the unbearable reality, Lord chose not to open the coffin, fearing the indelible pain of such an image. She lingered in silent vigil for nearly 20 minutes before the coffin was taken away. The autopsy offered scant revelations, merely affirming death by asphyxiation from hanging. The official decree was one of suicide. In the absence of her family, Mariana's body was cremated the same day, leaving a void where closure should have been. This tale of Mariana is not merely a personal tragedy, but a reflection on the systemic failures that allowed such a fate to unfold. It challenges us to consider the structures of power and protection, urging a reevaluation of how we respond to cries for help. In the silence left by Mariana's passing, there lies a call to action, a demand for justice and empathy in a world too often indifferent. In the heart of Mexico, amid the vibrant tapestry of culture and history, a storm was brewing, a tempest of grief, anger, and relentless pursuit of justice. It centered around a young woman named Mariana, whose life and untimely death would become a symbol of systemic failure and societal negligence. Mariana's family, engulfed in sorrow, found themselves grappling not only with the loss of their beloved, but with the unsettling speed and opacity surrounding the handling of her death. Mariana's story unfolds with stark contradictions and painful realities. Her family was adamant that she had never authorized any document permitting her cremation. The rapidity with which her body was cremated left them bereft of a proper farewell and plunged them into a chasm of suspicion and unanswered questions. The authorities' swift conclusion about the cause of her death seemed to disregard Mariana's haunting history of harassment and the ongoing investigations into her allegations. The family's legal counsel brought to light the glaring irregularities in the case's proceedings. He argued that the cremation not only breached legal protocols, but also contravened Mexico's Federal Criminal Procedure Code. This law explicitly states that individuals who die under suspicious or violent circumstances, including cases of suicide, are not to be cremated, as it obliterates critical forensic evidence. Thus, the decision to cremate Mariana's body effectively stymied any further investigation into her death. As the public's indignation mounted, the Chiapas prosecutor's office issued a statement asserting that the autopsy revealed no evidence of physical or sexual assault. They also noted that Mariana had never formally reported any such crimes to the authorities. However, these declarations did little to dampen the flames of outrage that were spreading across the nation. In the academic heart of the region, medical interns and students from the University of Atenoma to Chiapas mobilized, launching an indefinite strike. They rejected the official narrative and demanded a comprehensive investigation. Their voices were echoed by students from both the medical and gerontology faculties, who penned an open letter to the university administration. They called for accountability for those who had ignored Mariana's cries for help, labeling her death not as a suicide, but a femicide, a preventable tragedy had her pleas been heeded. The movement swiftly transcended the confines of academia. Social media platforms became a crucible for justice, with thousands tuitions that had failed her. What began as an online protest soon morphed into tangible action, as people from all walks of life coalesced in their demand for justice. Mariana's case was no longer viewed as an isolated incident of negligence. It was emblematic of a systemic collapse. Her repeated calls for help, ignored by both the government and her university, underscored a profound dereliction of duty. The university, which should have been a bastion of support during her final months of study, stood accused of failing not only Mariana, but her grieving family, who sought justice in an ocean of apathy. In the end, Mariana's story is a poignant reminder of the fragility of human rights and the enduring struggle for justice in a society where the cries of the vulnerable are too often drowned out by the silence of indifference. Her legacy serves as a clarion call for systemic change, reminding us that the pursuit of justice is not merely a legal battle, but a moral imperative that transcends borders and speaks to the very core of our humanity. Amidst a growing swell of public outcry, a case emerged that ignited a profound national discourse, casting an unflinching light on the systemic neglect by institutions of a tragedy long ignored. The tragedy in question revealed the failure of these institutions to adequately address the pervasive issue of gender-based violence. Responding to the mounting pressure, the Ministry of the Interior directed the Chiapas Attorney General's office to meticulously adhere to legal protocols specifically designed for investigating deaths resulting from gender-based violence. This directive was underscored by a mandate to ensure that the case was approached with a sensitivity attuned to gender-related issues. In a public declaration, the police emphasized their commitment to remaining in close contact with the family of the victim, Mariana, pledging to provide them with all necessary support and resources. Furthermore, the involvement of the Chiapas Secretariat for Gender Equality was confirmed, offering much-needed assistance to Mariana's bereaved mother. Despite her own recent recovery from surgery, Mariana's mother, known affectionately as Lord, publicly conveyed her gratitude on February 2nd, acknowledging those who rallied behind her daughter's cause. In a poignant video broadcast across social media platforms, she issued a scathing rebuke of government officials who sought to cast blame upon her for the tragic events that unfolded. Addressing those who questioned her maternal role and queried her whereabouts, she explained, "I was living outside Chiapas, laboring diligently to secure a future for my daughter." She poignantly added, "Some contend that I erred in allowing her to work so far away, but she had her own reasons for being there. The abuse she suffered was never of her own making." Her words struck a chord with many, laying bare the profound mistrust she harbored towards the authorities. At that juncture, Lord had not been afforded access to the case file or an official copy of the investigation. She implored the public to persist in their calls for true justice, a justice unmarred by scapegoating or distorted judicial processes, articulating her frustration with the opacity that shrouded the proceedings. Even as the calendar turned to February 13th, the narrative took a chilling turn with the arrest of Ane, the clinic director in Nueva Palestina, where Mariana had been employed. The Chiapas State Attorney General's office leveled accusations against Ane, alleging that she had abused her position by failing to report the mistreatment Mariana endured, despite being fully apprised of the situation. Mariana's repeated complaints had been met with dismissive gestures from Ane, who offered superficial solutions such as soup and time off, along with unfulfilled promises to transfer the man who had been harassing Mariana. Ironically, it was Ane who alerted T9th. A judge subsequently ordered Ane to remain in pretrial detention, citing damning evidence of gross negligence. Independent journalists who scrutinized the police report noted a glaring omission that further compounded the tragedy. The Chiapas Attorney General's office permitted the cremation of Mariana's body, thereby precluding any possibility of further forensic examination. The case file itself exposed significant deficiencies in the standard handling of femicide investigations. Despite Mariana's forewarnings regarding the peril she faced, the investigation appeared to falter, mired in procedural inadequacies. This case, emblematic of a broader societal issue, demands introspection and reform. It beckons us to question the structures that fail to protect and serve, urging a collective resolve to dismantle the barriers that hinder justice. In the end, the pursuit of truth and equity for Mariana transcends the confines of this singular tragedy, echoing a universal call for systemic change. In the hushed corridors of justice, where the echoes of truth often clash with the shadows of doubt, the case of Mariana stands as a somber testament to the complexity of human affairs. The investigation into her untimely demise was marred by a disturbing focus on absolving external suspects rather than meticulously identifying the true perpetrator. The official narrative painted Mariana in an unfavorable light, casting her as bewildered and reticent, while conveniently neglecting the gender-based violence that plagued her existence. The official report, a stark document of finality, declared that Mariana's life ended tragically on the evening of January 28th at precisely 8:30 through asphyxiation by hanging. Yet conspicuously absent from this grim account were pivotal forensic details, such as the type of ligature employed and the precise location where her life was extinguished. These omissions only served to deepen the enigma surrounding her death. Eyewitness accounts from the scene further muddied the waters. Contrary to conventional expectations, Mariana's body was discovered not in the typical suspension associated with hanging, but rather kneeling, her fists clenched and arms outstretched towards the earth. Such a posture left some first responders perplexed, mistaking it for a semblance of repose rather than the tragic tableau it truly was. Compounding the investigative chaos were the baffling questions posed to Mariana's colleagues, which seemed to stray far from any logical path to justice. Queries about her personal hygiene and unfounded allegations of antihistamine use served only to detract from the gravity of her situation. To her grieving family, these were calculated diversions, insidious attempts to defile her memory and deflect scrutiny from potential culprits. Amidst this turmoil, the family's legal team unearthed a significant lead: a man who had tormented Mariana. Initially cloaked in anonymity, his identity gradually seeped into the public consciousness. Social media became a fervent conduit for truth, disseminating images and naming Fernando Perez Jimenez, a doctor, as the alleged architect of Mariana's suffering. On the 18th of February, authorities descended upon Fernando's abode, only to find he had already fled. Hours later, in a twist of fate, Fernando emerged from the shadows, surrendering himself. In a digital confession, he vehemently denied any involvement in Mariana's death, portraying himself as a victim of unjust persecution. Yet, despite his protestations, he found himself incarcerated, not on charges of murder, but for sexual harassment. The Attorney General's office maintained a bifurcated approach, treating the harassment charges and Mariana's death as distinct cases. Nevertheless, Mariana's family, steadfast in their pursuit of justice, refused to relent. At a preliminary court session, the Chiapas Attorney General's office laid bare a tapestry of damning evidence, intricately linking Fernando to the crime. The revelations were harrowing. He bore a sordid history of sexual harassment allegations, spanning years and implicating multiple women. Faced with the gravity of these revelations, the judiciary decreed that Fernando be held in preventive detention, consigning him to the confines of prison. In this labyrinthine quest for justice, Mariana's family remains resolute, their unwavering determination a beacon of hope in a world often obscured by darkness. Their journey underscores a profound truth, that justice, elusive though it may be, is a pursuit worth enduring, for it is in seeking the light that we honor the memory of those we have lost. In the heart of Chiapas, a mother named Lourdes stood as a beacon of unwavering resolve. She was Mariana's mother, a woman who refused to be silenced in the face of injustice. Her daughter Mariana had been a victim of a cruel fate, and Lourdes' relentless pursuit for answers and justice became her life's mission. Yet the path she tread was fraught with obstacles, as the investigation into Mariana's case was plagued by interminable delays and bureaucratic inertia. Amidst this tumult, Lourdes bore her grief in silence, her strength concealed beneath a veneer of quiet determination. Her struggle was not just with the Chiapas government, but also with her own deteriorating health. On August 8, 2021, Lourdes succumbed to bone cancer, her battle ending without witnessing the justice she so fervently sought. In the courtroom, the echoes of Mariana's initial complaint lingered, filed a mere 2 months before her untimely demise. As the trial unfolded, disturbing revelations came to light. In February 2013, another woman, a nurse, had accused Fernando of attempted assault. incidents that had been disregarded by those in power. Fernando, however, remained defiant. He professed innocence, claiming he had never spoken to Mariana. He asserted his presence at a medical laboratory in Tuxtla Gutiérrez the day after Mariana's death, conducting routine tests. Yet, on November 25, 2021, Fernando was sentenced, albeit only for sexual harassment, receiving a mere 3-year prison term. No charges were levied against him or anyone else in direct connection with Mariana's death. The forensic evidence in Mariana's case was scant and mired in controversy. Many questions remained unanswered, leaving the true nature of her death cloaked in ambiguity. In this tale of sorrow and resilience, we are reminded of the relentless pursuit of truth and justice, often hindered by the very systems meant to uphold them, and the enduring strength of those who refuse to let their voices be silenced.